Okay, I am going to explain to you a hidden mechanic in this game that is relevant for the run. In this game, there's a hidden stat that I like to call Poise, and if you've played Dark Souls before, you are probably familiar with Poise. It is a stat in which it creates this resistance to damage and prevents you from being staggered. But with enough damage, it can be broken, and then you can be put into a state where you can take massive damage, and you can be staggered. It's like a defense. Think of it as like a defensive armor, almost, that you need to break through in order to start dealing massive damage. And you'll notice if you start to shoot Bad Bessie, it doesn't really do a lot of damage. But if you shoot her enough, she will stagger, and essentially her poise will have been broken. And once she starts to be staggered, you can then shoot her continuously to do big damage. And it's the most relevant to Bessie because in order to do the chain kill on her in her boss video that I explained, you need to put her into this state by breaking her poise. And you need to continuously melee her and shoot her in order to continue a chain that skips her cycles of her hiding. Now, it is also relevant to Darren. If you notice you keep shooting Darren with something like the Revolver, it's not going to do that much damage. But later on in the game, when you get shotguns break poise very, very quickly because they do a large amount of damage. The reason you don't use a shotgun in Bessie is because it would be significantly more difficult to chain kill her using a shotgun. But for pretty much every other boss, the method of killing them is to just break their poise with a shotgun and then deal massive amounts of damage by abusing Deadeye. I'll show you what I mean. See, when I shoot Bessie, it really does nothing. But if you shoot her a lot, back to back, like that, see, her poise was then broken. And she gets into a state where she can then be staggered and chain killed. Now, only two bosses in the game can be chained like that, to my knowledge. Bessie and Kelly. But I just wanted to give you an example of what it's like to break an enemy's poise. You can actually do this on a boss like Professor Perry to skip cycles, but it is probably one of the hardest strats in the entire game, and not even I go for it at this point because there's just so much time save in all the categories. It's not worth it. But yeah. It's also kind of believed that keeping up this damage and like reaching the poise threshold is what causes Grizzly's fight to differ in how much he draws a knife. But I can't confirm that. Grizzly is kind of a wild card to us at this point still. But yeah, just be aware that poise exists for certain bosses. And also I should mention, for Sam in the saloon, we're pretty sure it's impossible to break his poise. So we just do the Sam fight as the game wants you to, just faster. Other than that, yeah, that's really poise explained. And in Kelly is a weird example because you can't break Kelly's poise by shooting him, normally. He has a mechanic where he has to be shot in the legs to make him dance. So you can only break Kelly's poise by shooting him in the legs. And there are lots of little specific examples of like how the game wants you to do boss fights that it never explains. But this is just me making you aware that poise exists, and it's probably the weirdest mechanic you could ever put in a cowboy game. But yeah. That's Poise.